I was reborn on the day Lennon Carter was drugged. But this time, instead of being his antidote, I dialed the number of the woman he loved, Lillian. In my previous life, I had fallen for Lennon, the man who raised me. When I found out he'd been drugged, I ignored his desperate plea to call his lover and ended up sleeping with him, becoming his antidote. A month later, I found myself unexpectedly pregnant. Lennon was forced to marry me, but on the day of our wedding, his beloved woman was killed by kidnappers while abroad. Before her death, she tried to call him 199 times, begging for help. But Lennon, preoccupied with the wedding, never answered a single call. Afterward, he stared at those 199 calls in silence, never speaking a word. Then, when I went into labor, he locked me in the basement. I begged him to take me to the hospital, but he just smiled cruelly, watching as I suffocated, unable to give birth. Just before I died, I heard him say, "If you hadn't gotten pregnant, I wouldn't have been forced to marry you. If you hadn't taken her place, I would have answered Lillian's calls. You deserve to die." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Lennon had been drugged. "Mira, hurry up and call Lillian." Hearing those familiar words again, I suddenly realized I had been reborn. Without a second thought, I grabbed my phone and dialed Lillian's number. Lennon's face flushed red, his gaze burning as he looked at me. In my past life, I had made the mistake of giving in to that look, which led to my tragic end. This time, I turned away from his gaze and quickly left his room. "Lennon, just hold on. Lillian will be here in 10 minutes. As I shut the door behind me, I heard him mutter my name through gritted teeth, but I pretended not to hear, firmly closing the door and standing guard outside. 10 minutes later, Lillian rushed in. She gave me a complicated glance, visibly relieved when she saw that I was dressed and untouched. Before stepping inside, she shot me a glance. "You can leave now. We don't need you here." I turned and headed upstairs, back to my room. It wasn't until the middle of the night that the downstairs room finally fell quiet. I exhaled deeply. In my previous life, my love for Lennon had led me to become his antidote, and I had ended up pregnant with his child. He married me out of obligation, but on our wedding day, Lillian died unexpectedly, and he lost the love of his life. Then he endured in silence until my due date, locking me in the basement. I begged him, willing to sacrifice my life for the child. That child was his too. But he ignored my pleas, watching us both die horribly, all for the sake of avenging his beloved. This time, I had brought Lillian to be his antidote, and soon I would leave, completely cutting ties with him. The next morning, Lillian appeared at the family's breakfast table. Lennon took a bite of his sandwich, then casually announced, "From now on, Lillian is my girlfriend. I'll marry her, so be nice to her." He glanced at me, then pointed his fork at me. "Especially you. Be nice to my girlfriend and don't cause me trouble." I nodded indifferently, while Lillian smiled smugly at me. I pretended not to notice, and stood up, ready to leave before finishing my breakfast. But just as I got to my feet, I heard Lillian's soft, dramatic sobs. "Lennon, does Mira not want me in the family? I know how important she is to you. If she doesn't like me, maybe I should leave." She let a few tears fall, looking as if she'd been deeply wronged. Lennon frowned, clearly irritated, and called out to me. "Mira, sit down and finish your breakfast." I didn't respond, coolly saying, "I'm done." Lennon's irritation deepened. "Sit down. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Is this how I raised you, with no manners?" This time, I had no intention of getting involved, but they wouldn't leave me alone. I turned back, offering a polite smile. "I've really finished. You two enjoy your meal. I'll take my leave." Half an hour later, my door was knocked on. When I opened it, I was met with Lennon's deep, brooding eyes. I instinctively reached for the door, wanting to shut him out and avoid any confrontation, but Lennon was quicker, blocking my way with ease. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze sharp as he studied me. "Avoiding me? Why?" He took a step closer, his eyes narrowing as he examined me. "Are you upset? Is it because of Lillian?" I shook my head quickly, trying to keep my tone even. "No, I'm not upset. I'm happy for you. You found someone you truly love." His expression shifted, unreadable, as though he didn't quite buy my words. "Is that really how you feel? Are you sure you're not just saying that?" He scoffed, letting out a small laugh that lacked any warmth. "Mira, don't tell me you still have feelings for me. You think I don't know about the kiss you stole from me on your 18th birthday? You were drunk, but I noticed. And all those love letters you wrote me over the years? Yeah, I read every single one. You thought you were being sneaky, but the way you looked at me, your eyes practically screamed it. You think no one noticed? Everyone could tell. You not confessing to me? Best decision you ever made. because if you had, I would have laughed in your face. He chuckled, the sound sharp and cruel, before walking over to the desk and pulling open the bottom drawer. He grabbed a thick stack of letters and tossed them onto the floor, stepping on them carelessly. Mira, I've been taking care of you since you were 7 years old, raising you all these years, and now you've got these feelings for me. Do you even know how messed up that is? You knew I only had eyes for Lillian. You still wrote me love letters behind my back. Honestly, it's disgusting. Then he leaned in close, his voice low and almost mocking. I came here to tell you something. Yesterday, I was drugged. You were looking at me like you wanted to jump me. I know you thought you could be the antidote, but luckily, you didn't go through with it. If you had, I would have been disgusted for the rest of my life. You're just not worth it. A sharp pain twisted in my chest. Even though I'd stopped loving him in this life, hearing those words still hurt. After saying that, Lennon warned me to stay away from him so Lillian wouldn't misunderstand, then slammed the door on his way out. I didn't want to be a nuisance, so I decided to head out to take care of some overseas paperwork. I packed my things and left. That night, I purposely waited until almost 10 o'clock to come back. As soon as I walked into my room, I knew something was off. My bed had been moved. Then I saw that Lillian had posted an update on social media, a selfie of her lying on the bed, smiling. $1 million mattress really is the best. I just mentioned I wasn't sleeping well, and he immediately replaced my mattress. That's why it's so important to find a man who loves you. She'd taken the mattress Lennon bought for me, the one he had custom-made when my back injury flared up earlier this year. It cost over $1 million. He used to be so kind to me. He knew exactly what it meant to take care of a girl, especially since he had raised me from such a young age. But he let me fall for him, and now he stood on some moral high ground, acting like I shouldn't have fallen for him in the first place. And here was Lillian, casually mentioning her bad sleep, and without even telling me, Lennon had the mattress replaced. When Lennon heard me return, he stood in the doorway, speaking in his usual detached way. Lillian has light sleep, so I gave her your mattress. Anyway, your back's fine now, it doesn't matter which mattress you sleep on. I didn't even look up, just nodded as if I couldn't care less. Lennon frowned, watching me closely. Mira, you've suddenly become so reasonable. I'm not sure how to handle this. What's going on with you lately? You used to hate it when I was nice to other people. Why aren't you throwing a tantrum now? Are you planning something? I swear, if you mess with Lillian, I won't let you off easy. I finally looked up at him, my voice calm. I'm not trying to mess with anyone. Honestly, I'd rather no one mess with me. And didn't you always want me to be more sensible? Well, look at me now. You should be happy about it, right? Lennon's face tightened, and he muttered almost through gritted teeth, Fine, Mira. You really know how to be a pain. With that, he slammed the door and stormed downstairs. Every time he said that, I knew he was angry, but I didn't care anymore. Whether he was angry or not didn't matter, soon, I'd be gone. The days that followed were simple, almost predictable. Lillian made sure to flaunt her relationship with Lennon, and he was still sulking at me. This time, I wasn't going to play the role of the peacemaker. A month later, Lillian made her announcement. She was pregnant. Lennon couldn't contain his excitement. He was practically bursting with joy, ready to tell the world. Wedding plans with Lillian went into full swing, and the entire Carter family was swept up in the preparations. The tables had turned, and this time, it was his beloved who was carrying his child. I had already made up my mind to let them have their happiness. After finishing my paperwork for leaving the country, I immediately booked a flight to Candace on the exact same day as their wedding. It didn't take long for Lennon to come to me. Taking advantage of the fact that Lillian wasn't home, he slipped into my room and threw open the door. He pulled out his phone, opened an email, and shoved it in front of me. So you've used your parents' money, huh? I had my lawyer check, and it's being used as a deposit for your trip abroad. What's going on? My wedding has you so upset that you're planning to run off and hide. The knot in my stomach tightened, but his mocking tone made the tension dissipate a little. When I stayed silent, his voice grew colder. Mira, how much longer are you going to drag this out? You've been giving me the cold shoulder for a month now. Were you planning to just ignore me forever if I didn't come here? Ever since Lillian moved in, you've barely spoken to me. But she's the woman I love, and if you really cared about me, you'd understand that. You can't keep running away from both of us. You can hide from us for a while, but not forever. Do you really think you'll keep avoiding us once Lillian and I are married? I shook my head quickly. Lennon, you're mistaken. I've always seen you as a guardian, someone who raised me. I'm grateful to you, but that's all there is. He let out a laugh, like I had just told him the funniest joke. Grateful? Mira, the whole world knows you've been in love with me for years. Who are you trying to fool? Do you honestly believe you don't love me? He glanced at the desk, his smile growing wider. Look at all these gifts I've given you. You've kept every single one of them, and you're still going to tell me you don't love me? He walked over and began picking up the gifts one by one, carefully examining them before looking back at me, his tone suddenly serious. Put all this away. I'm marrying Lillian now, and you need to stop clinging to these fantasies. We might not be related by blood, but I'll never fall for you. And now that Lillian is pregnant, I don't want her seeing this stuff. I can't let her feel uncomfortable. I have to think about my wife and child. I nodded casually, tossing the gifts into a box. I'd been planning to throw them away before I left anyway, so it worked out that I could take care of it now. Lennon frowned, clearly frustrated with my lack of reaction. He stepped in front of me, stopping my hand before I could finish packing. Mira, can't you be a little more careful? You've even knocked the bunny off this hairpin. I glanced at the hairpin in his hand. It was the first gift he'd ever given me, after my parents died and he took me in. He'd been their best friend, and this was his first present to me. I'd cherished it for years, never letting anyone touch it. But now, I was casually tossing it aside. Lennon clearly couldn't handle it. Mira, what's with the act? You're obviously still in love with me. Don't even try to pretend you're okay with me marrying someone else. You can't stand it, can you? But here you are, acting like you couldn't care less. Who are you fooling? Don't think I don't know what's going on. You're so upset about Lillian and me getting married, you're about to run off to some other country just to get away, right? But now you're pretending like you're over it. Yeah, I'm sure you are. But fine, go ahead. Take your little trip. Lillian's pregnant and we don't want you hanging around, getting in her way. So, go. It's better for everyone. Then, without another word, he grabbed his phone and transferred $100,000 to my account. Take the money. Go travel. See the world. When you get back, Lillian's pregnancy should be more stable. His eyes held a strange, almost mocking look as he added, take your time. Don't think about me too much. You'll have to get used to the fact that I'm getting married. It'll be weird if we keep bumping into each other after that. He threw a few more tips my way about my trip, but I wasn't really listening. He didn't know I was reborn, and this time, I was really leaving. On the day of his wedding, everyone at the Carter Villa was up early, running around preparing for the big day. I waited until everything was in full swing, then quietly grabbed my suitcase, slipped out the back door, and took a cab straight to the airport. Lennon had changed into his wedding suit but didn't join the procession right away. For some reason, he found himself walking toward Myra's room, drawn by the need to see her one last time. But when he entered, the room was empty, and a strange sense of unease gripped his chest. He quickly rationalized that she must have gone with the family to the wedding venue to help with preparations, which eased his mind. He turned and went to pick up Lillian, eager for the ceremony to begin. He was beyond excited. Today, he was marrying the woman he'd dreamed of for so long. Soon, they would have a child together. Just the thought of it made a smile spread across his face, a smile he couldn't suppress. When he saw Lillian walking toward him, his heart skipped a beat. Dressed in her pristine white wedding dress, she looked nothing short of breathtaking. She was every bit the woman he'd secretly adored for years. But there was someone else who caught his eye, another man standing nearby. He was Lillian's longtime friend, Gavin Hood. Lennon barely spared him a glance. Gavin was nothing, just a sweet talker with a good appearance. He was no threat to him. So, in front of Gavin, Lennon leaned in and kissed Lillian, then swept her into his arms and carried her off to the wedding car. But even as the ceremony began, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Mira still hadn't shown up. The truth dawned on him. She must have stayed away because she couldn't bear to see him marry someone else. The day after the wedding, Lennon whisked Lillian off on their honeymoon, pushing thoughts of Mira out of his mind. It wasn't until half a month after the honeymoon, when he finally returned to the Carter Villa, that he realized he still hadn't seen Mira. He called for the housekeeper, hoping to get some answers. That was when he found out she had left for abroad the day of his wedding. The memory came flooding back. He had wired her $100,000, telling her to take a month-long vacation before coming back. With that, he started counting the days. She should be back in another 2 weeks. He would need to remind her again not to make her feelings too obvious. If she kept acting that way, Lillian would surely get upset. Lillian was pregnant now, and even he had to cater to her every whim. He couldn't let anyone disturb her peace of mind, not even Mira. 2 weeks passed, but Mira hadn't returned. Another 2 weeks later, still nothing. Lennon began to lose his patience. He reached for his phone and dialed her number for the first time in weeks. To his surprise, her number had been disconnected. That was when it hit him that she had left in a fit of anger. A mix of disbelief and discomfort stirred inside him. How could she really just walk away without a word? And to make matters worse, she had changed her number, cutting off any way for him to find her. Still, as the thought crossed his mind that she might have left because of his marriage and the baby, a strange sense of relief washed over him. He had married the woman he loved, after all. Myra's return didn't matter anymore. In fact, maybe it was for the best. At least now, he could enjoy some peace and quiet. A few months later, Lillian's due date came, and Lennon was glued to her side, not leaving for a second. On the day she went into labor, he stood anxiously outside the delivery room, pacing back and forth. Giving birth was a dangerous journey for any woman, but there was nothing he could do. All he could do was wait outside, silently praying that both mother and child would make it through safely. At the same time, another man shared in his anxiety, Gavin. Lennon's irritation flared. This guy always seemed to show up at the most inconvenient moments. Despite Lillian knew Gavin for years, Lennon never took him seriously. After all, Lillian wasn't the type of woman who only needed emotional support. Her beauty came with a hefty price tag that required constant attention. Lillian was already successful in her own right. She admired strength, which was why Lennon, despite secretly harboring feelings for her for years, never confessed. It wasn't until he made a name for himself that he finally revealed his feelings. Even though she and Gavin were close, Lennon was confident that she would never fall for someone like him, a man who only knew how to charm women with sweet words. So, Lennon let Gavin show up every now and then, to get on his nerves. An hour later, the delivery room door finally opened, and a nurse stepped out, holding their baby boy. Lennon wasn't as excited as most would expect. He and Lillian had already found out the baby's gender during a private ultrasound, so when the nurse said it was a boy, he just nodded. But Gavin couldn't hold back his tears. His face lit up with pure joy, as if it was his own child. When Lillian was wheeled out, Lennon stood on one side of the bed, while Gavin stood on the other. Lennon didn't feel the need to argue with a man of Gavin's status, but what bothered him was the first person Lillian looked at when she came out. It was Gavin. His face darkened. But at least Gavin didn't follow them into the room, so Lennon's mood eased a little. Unable to bite his tongue any longer, Lennon muttered, "Look at him, acting like he's the father. I'm standing right here." Lillian's face flushed with discomfort, but she quickly shot back, "What are you talking about? He's my best friend. We've known each other since we were kids. He's just happy for me." Lennon didn't reply. Every time he voiced his displeasure, she used the same tired excuse to shut him down. And if he said anything more, she'd probably start bringing up Mira. Thinking of Mira, a wave of frustration washed over him. It had been so long since she last contacted him. Doesn't she care at all? Is she really just going to disappear from my life? He got lost in thoughts of Mira until Lillian's voice brought him back to reality. Her eyes were red, and her chest rose and fell with anger. "Lennon, who are you thinking about?" "Let me guess. Mira, right?" Lennon didn't want to upset her on the day she gave birth, so he quickly denied it, trying to brush it off. "Why would I be thinking about that troublemaker? I'm just trying to figure out the perfect gift to celebrate the arrival of our son." Though his words were casual, his mind kept drifting back to Mira. The urge to fly abroad and find her was starting to bubble up inside him. Lillian, hearing his response, finally let out a smile. "Lennon," she teased, "you promised me $5 million if we had a daughter, and $10 million for a son. I guess it's time to make good on that promise?" Lennon blinked, suddenly remembering the promise he made back when she first got pregnant. A weird feeling stirred in his chest. Over the past 2 years, he had spent a lot on her. She'd jokingly asked for a reward for having a baby, saying that wealthy wives always got big payouts. So, he had half-heartedly said, $5 million for a daughter, $10 million for a son. But he never thought she'd actually take him up on it the moment the baby was born. He had no problem spoiling her with expensive homes, cars, bags, and jewelry, but handing over cash felt different. It bothered him that he'd caught her lending large sums of money to Gavin on more than one occasion. He'd even looked into it and realized that none of those loans had ever been repaid. At first, he admired how open and genuine Lillian seemed compared to other women, but now, it felt like a different story. A knot formed in his stomach. After a brief moment of hesitation, he transferred $10 million to her. After all, she had given him an heir to the Carter family. Lillian, lying in bed, beamed with joy. "Lennon, I knew you were the best. From now on, both our son and I will love you so much. Lennon, look. Our son is smiling at you. Can you see his eyes, his little face? He looks just like you." Lennon smiled back at the baby, but as he studied his son's features, something gnawed at him. The more he looked, the less the child resembled him. After transferring the money, he had someone look into her financial movements. What he found shocked him. As soon as he sent her the money, she immediately transferred it all to Gavin. But that wasn't the worst part. What really stunned him was discovering that Lillian had been secretly having an affair with Gavin all along. And the baby wasn't even his. It was Gavin's. Lennon let out a bitter laugh, a wave of disbelief washing over him. His legs wobbled as the weight of the truth hit him. The woman he had loved for years didn't love him at all. She had just been using his money and his resources to support Gavin and their child. Lillian wasn't any different from the other women he'd known. In fact, her betrayal was far worse. There's no woman out there who truly loves me. They're all just pretending. His heart felt like it had been ripped out, the pain almost suffocating him. And then, his thoughts turned to Mira, the girl who had loved him since she was 17. Tears welled up in his eyes, but a bitter smile spread across his face. There was someone out there who had truly loved him for who he was, someone who didn't want anything from him. That person was Mira, and yet, he had pushed her away. A deep regret gnawed at him. He made a silent promise to himself that he would find her, the girl who had always seen him for who he really was. At that time, I was so focused on my studies abroad that I didn't have the time or energy to keep up with anything happening back home. For the past 6 months, my life had been all about my academics, early mornings, late nights, and the rest of the day spent buried in textbooks, leaving only time for meals and sleep. The atmosphere at my new campus was perfect for studying, and I quickly became friends with other international students, finding it easy to adjust to my new life. Before this, all my thoughts had been consumed by Lennon, and I rarely had the mental space to focus on my studies. But now, I found a new sense of purpose in my work, and my life felt fuller and more fulfilling. Since leaving the country, I hadn't returned home even once. Most of my international roommates would head back on holidays, but I always declined their offers to join them. I had finally broken free from my past, and I wasn't looking back. I'd also cut off all contact with Lennon, and it seemed he wasn't trying to reach out either. Things were peaceful, and I figured by now, he must have adjusted to his new life as a father. I assumed he would forget about me. But to my surprise, it wasn't long before Lennon reached out. One day, after finishing up in the lab, I got a message from a domestic number I didn't recognize. It was brief, just a few words. "I've divorced." I blinked, confused, wondering if I had received the wrong message. But then came the second one. "I've completely ended things with Lillian." That was when I realized it was Lennon reaching out. My mind was racing. He had divorced Lillian? But how? He had everything he wanted, the woman he loved, a child, so why would he suddenly get divorced? When I didn't respond right away, Lennon called me. "Mira, I've divorced Lillian. It's over between us. The child is with her, and I won't have anything to do with her anymore. I know you left and went abroad because I married someone else, and I hurt you. But it's all over now, so please, come back." I rubbed my forehead, a sense of frustration creeping in. "Lennon, I think you're misunderstanding me. What I feel for you is nothing more than gratitude. When I was younger, I confused those feelings for love, and it caused you a lot of trouble. But I've come to realize it wasn't love. It was just me depending on you because I didn't feel secure. I'm really sorry about that. And you've always told me to stay away, and now I've done that. So please, don't say things like that anymore. I'm thankful for everything you've done for me, and I'll make it up to you once I'm settled." There was a long silence on the line, and then Lennon hung up. I thought he'd finally understood my feelings, and would leave me in peace. But to my surprise, he showed up abroad to find me. I had just stepped out of the lab when a male classmate from my group suddenly blocked my way. "Mira, why are you being so cold to me? You won't even give me a chance?" A small crowd of classmates gathered around, clearly interested in the scene. Sighing, I stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "I've told you before. I'm not dealing with relationships right now. I'm focusing on my studies, not romance." He had been chasing me for a long time now. No matter how many times I rejected him, he wouldn't give up. Not willing to accept my refusal, he insisted on inviting me to a gathering he was organizing. This wasn't the first time he'd asked, and just as I was about to turn him down again, a tall figure suddenly appeared in front of me, blocking my path. "Hey, are you not getting it? She's already said no. Why keep pushing her?" I didn't even need to look closely to know it was Lennon. In my past life, I loved him so deeply that just a glance in a crowd was enough for me to recognize him. The two men quickly exchanged harsh words before they started pushing each other. I rushed to break it up. If this escalated into a fight and the cops showed up, I'd be dragged into it too. With all my strength, I managed to pull Lennon away, shouting, "Stop it. Lennon, can you please not cause trouble for me? Didn't I make myself clear? I'm rejecting you, it's pretty obvious. Why won't you get that? Besides, this is between him and me. What gives you the right to start throwing punches?" Lennon looked like he'd run out of steam, his shoulders slumping in defeat. He turned to me with a hurt look in his eyes. "Because I love you. Isn't that enough?" His response was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Not wanting the crowd to make this any worse, I quickly pulled him away. Once we reached the corner of the building, I finally stopped. Only then did I realize his eyes were red, like he'd been holding back tears. And in the short time since I'd last seen him, he looked exhausted, almost unrecognizable. As soon as he saw me staring at him, tears welled up and started to fall. He reached for my hand, gripping it tightly, refusing to let go no matter how much I tried to pull away. "Mira, I've finally found you." His voice cracked. "I don't want to let go. I know you're still mad at me, but I swear I won't mess up again. For years, I thought I loved Lillian. I thought she was different, not like those other fake, flashy women. But I had no idea. She's been pretending the whole time. She fooled me, used my feelings and my money. And the baby she's carrying? It's not even mine. She never loved me. She just wanted my money. I was so blind, thinking she actually cared about me. I had no idea this was all part of her plan. She needed me to support her, her boyfriend, and her kid. She totally betrayed me. I was shocked. I hadn't expected Lillian to be so fake. As I thought back to everything that happened in my past life, I couldn't help but feel a small sense of satisfaction. It was poetic justice. Lennon approached me carefully, his hands trembling as he reached out, wanting to hold me. But at the last moment, he dropped them, as if unsure of himself. "Mira, you used to be the one who couldn't stand being apart from me. Didn't you once promise you'd stay by my side forever?" I messed up. I didn't realize how I felt until it was too late, and now I've lost you. Now I see it clearly. You're the only one who has truly loved me all along. But because of everything between us, I was too scared to accept your love. But now, I know for sure. I love you too. I want to be with you. I want us to be together, no matter what. I'll never let you go again." He moved toward me, his arms outstretched, but before he could close the distance, I shoved him back, hard. His eyes were wild, bloodshot, as he gazed at me with an intensity that seemed to burn through the air. "Mira, do you know what it felt like seeing you with another man?" I was terrified. I thought I might lose you forever. I was the one who pushed you away in the first place, and now. If I pushed you into someone else's arms, I swear I don't know if I could live with myself. I'm just glad you didn't accept him. Thank God it's not too late. I know you still love me. You've loved me for so many years. There's no way you could just stop. Not like that. Letting you go was the biggest mistake of my life. And this time, no matter what happens, I won't make that mistake again. Mira, come back to me. I promise I'll never hurt you again. I'll protect you, I swear. Just, come back." He took a step toward me again, but I moved out of the way, keeping my distance. He stopped, his shoulders slumping in defeat, his eyes downcast. After a moment of silence, I spoke, my voice calm and unwavering. "Is that everything?" He lifted his head, his gaze hopeful, waiting for me to say something. But all I gave him was indifference. "I'm sure. There's no future for us, Lennon. I don't love you, and I never will. You've already caused me enough trouble. If you keep harassing me, I won't hesitate to call the police. This isn't your world to control. If you don't want to get forcibly detained and deported, I suggest you leave now." Before turning away, I gave him one last, cold warning. "Lennon, I just want to live my life in peace. Don't ever come near me again." I heard his devastated cries behind me as I walked away. "Mira, are you really sure? If I leave now, I won't come back." But I didn't stop. I kept walking, my steps firm and resolute. I knew Lennon well enough to know that with his pride, he wouldn't be coming back to disrupt my life. And as for me, I would return to my studies, determined to live a life that was completely different from the one I had before.